Round-the-clock GPS monitoring. Come August, that's what's in store for some of our worst offenders, with the government's introduction of tracking bracelets that will alert police if offenders stray into exclusion zones. So who's covered under the change and who isn't? For more detail, we're joined by Katrina Casey from the Department of Corrections Community Probation Services. Katrina, thanks for joining us this morning. First thing up, who is this really aimed at? We're effectively talking high-risk offenders like the Beast of Blenheim?
He would certainly be one of the people we'd be looking at. We're interested in those offenders whose whereabouts and the routes that they take to get places we want to know about.
And it's going to be a 24/7 monitoring system, as we've just said in the introduction. Is it like an alarm which goes off, which tells the police that somebody's gone beyond their exclusion zone, or into an exclusion zone, rather?
We will operate both on inclusion zones, so zones that we want offenders to stay inside. And yes, if they stray outside an inclusion zone, an alarm will go off. And also those exclusion areas we don't want them to go near. And their movement will be being watched in a monitoring centre. So we won't need an alarm to go off as such, because we will have the maps in front of us. We will know if they're entering a school or a park. It is likely that the first thing we will do at that point is to contact the offender immediately, tell them they're in the wrong place, give them a minute to get out. If they don't get out, then we'll be talking to police.
It sounds all very high-tech and potentially very expensive. And I would also say, I think there was a plan like this shelved in the UK a few years ago, simply because the technology wasn't up to it, that the offenders could find ways of maybe shielding the GPS through trees or buildings. I mean, how watertight is this system?
There are going to be issues. We've just been over to the UK. They've got 16 pilots currently being run throughout the country with police and probation jointly. They're also running it in their mental health system in some parts of the country. And the technology is just so much better. It's getting better and better by the year than when we all first started talking about GPS. Yes, there are going to be areas that people can't be monitored inside, but we're going to be well aware of those. And this is a tool for people whose whereabouts we don't currently know. So it is only going to enhance everything else that we do with these offenders.
Now, Katrina, the first criticism we came up with on the show this morning when we were chatting about it was, surely if these guys are still so, if the community is still so at risk from these offenders, why are they in the community? Why aren't they being kept behind bars, despite the cost of doing that?
A large number of the people that we're targeting have to be let out by law, so nobody, including ourselves, would want them to be in the community, but they have legally finished their sentences. So for us, the story turns to how we're going to keep the public safe, and this is another tool, something else that we can use that gives us more information, faster information about where those offenders are.
Having been to the UK, or your department having been to the UK, how much confidence do you have that this is going to be preventative enough?
I think it's going to, what we're finding from the work that they're doing in the UK is that it is having an effect on offenders and their compliance with their sentence or order that they happen to be on. Some offenders, for example, have even asked if they can remain being tracked after their sentence finishes, so that police will know that they weren't at a particular crime scene.
Katrina, very quickly, have you had any response from the human rights lot on this?
No, we haven't, but we wouldn't be expecting any issues. These are the sort of people that you and I and everyone in the public needs to know where they are, and this is a great tool to help us do that.
Absolutely. Thanks very much, Katrina Casey from the Department of